What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Pro and Bro Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Arnold Telega Arda.
And I'm Mr. No Days Off, Fred Rosser, and I've been a nervous wreck all day long. Episode 66 is in full effect right now, and I've been a nervous wreck because we've had a lot of guests on. We've had writers on, we've had superstars on, but this is a first for us to have a promoter on. And I always say time is money, and this particular promoter, he gave me my opportunity. He gave me a call and said, pack your wrestling gear. You're going to come to the West Coast. So he was my first opportunity to wrestle out on the West Coast, wrestle guys like Brent Albright, a plethora of other top superstars. Just recently, I pulled up a match of Carl Anderson I had with this particular promoter. But, you know, this is going to be a long one for us, Arnold. Dave Marquez, thank you for being on Pro and Bro Wrestling Podcast. I always say don't die with the story and you tell it. And you, the OG, have a story. Thank you for joining us.
You got it, Bone Crusher.
David, man, I've been told that some refer to you as the Pope of Wrestling. How do you feel about that?
I've heard that before. I don't know how I feel about it. We were joking early on about my age, but it's when you put that there, it's like maybe. No, it's flattering, of course. But I've been around a long time, 30 years, and worked with an awful lot of people, worked all over the place, areas all over the globe, and I've had a lot of opportunities, and I try to share those with whomever I can. So, but no, the Pope of Pro Wrestling. That's I'm sure there's others. I'm sure there's others out there that would disagree with that.
No, I think you deserve the title, man. You're being humble, but because you've been in the game for 30 years, and I think it's so cool because you're so successful in what you do. But in the beginning, I learned that you weren't even a wrestling fan to begin with. I heard you wanted to become an animator. Am I right?
That's correct. I wanted to be a Disney. I mean, I'm sitting there with a pencil in my hand, which I don't think many people do. It's just out of habit. Growing up, I'm from Los Angeles. Now I'm one of the few who are natives, but born and raised in the shadows of the movie studios and all the TV stations here and entertainment. And I grew up in a Puerto Rican house, so there was always a lot of music and fun. And television was really my babysitter. And it's like I can probably tell you the 1976, 77 ABC lineup from the morning the news ended and Regis started all the way up until Dick Cavett. That's how much of a TV nerd I was. But in syndication here in LA on Channel 9, we had and I'm sure others have the same story if they're around my age, but we had The Wonderful World of Disney still on television. But the thing that was different about that show than what it is now is that they were the old ones from the 50s and 60s. So Walt Disney was the actual host when I was a kid, and it was in color. So I thought Walt was alive. I didn't know that he was gone. So
there's so many conspiracy theories about that.
Oh, I can verify he's very dead. But growing up, I was just mesmerized by his program because he would go on television and tell you like the most incredible thing, and then he was like, "Well, and we're making this." You're like, "Huh?" Like, what do you mean you're making this? And so he'll show you audio animatronics and how those things work, from the Tiki Room and the Pirates of the Caribbean and
Wow.
on and on and on. And then the animation side of it, the Plausible Impossible and all these other episodes, which are now all on Disney Plus. So you see what I'm talking about. But no, I saw that and I was just mesmerized by the animation process. But then deep down, it's storytelling. So then I was like, well, okay, well, maybe it's all in the same. But how I ended up in wrestling was because in about 1988, 87, 88, computer animation started becoming really big. And I had never touched a computer everything that I had ever known about a computer was like on the Jetsons or Tron or the movie War Games with Matthew Broderick. He starts the war with the internet by sticking the telephone. Like I had no idea what that was. So I thought I couldn't do it. So I didn't pursue it. No one ever said like you still needed to know how to draw. So which I'm lacking big time these days. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to work for Walt Disney, and I eventually did at Disneyland when I was a little older. But yeah,
How often do you share your story? You know, because every time I have someone on, it's near and dear to my heart. You know what I mean? So, like, how often do you get a chance to share your story? Time is money.
yeah, I don't I don't share too often. I mean, I it's interesting. I do a few of these a year, and I'm kind of like unless you're close to me, I'm rarely invited on these shows. So I'm kind of like the afterthought when it comes to wrestling. You know, I'm not loud like a Gabe Sapolsky or some of these other promoters that
Yeah.
are really in your face and in the internet or like a Court Bauer or something. You know, I dare say reserved, but I'm pretty private actually, which
Me
is weird
too.
to say. It's very weird to say that, but I am. And yeah, so I don't tell it too often. But when I do, you know, it's usually the stock answers. We really don't get into 30 frames a second and uh and all kinds of goofy things. But yeah, I don't get to tell it often.
You're really punctual because like I wanted to make sure that we were on time. I don't like being late for anything. Arnold had sent me the link. You had texted me saying ready, and I immediately sent you the link. Time is money. Arnold, the one thing I love about Dave is like for me, 2020, knock on wood with the wrestling, it was just prime time live for me, ran by Dave Marquez, and my stuff with New Japan Strong. So it was just back and forth, back and forth. And the one thing that's great about Dave is that he just gave me the freedom to be creative. You know what I mean? Because all the matches that I had on Primetime Live, they were like produced by me, and I wanted to be able to maximize my time out there and be able to utilize what we have. I know there's no fans there, but it's for me, I look at it as a movie, a production, you know what I mean? So Dave is a tremendous, a plethora of knowledge that just gave me the freedom to just have fun and be able to tell a story. So I just want to thank you, Dave.
For sure, man. You're always a pro. And you say I'm punctual. I think that comes from my broadcasting side because we, at 6 o'clock, I'm like sitting here thinking that we're going to flip a switch and there's going to be people waiting, to watch
Yes.
this. So yeah, the clock is always ticking. And originally getting into television and news, here it comes,
Yeah.
boom, you're on the air. So
I really appreciate that because
Yes.
usually when we say six, it's which I have no problem with. It's usually like 6 o'clock. Me and Fred hop in and we wait for our guests for about like 5 minutes and we do our small talk. So it caught me off guard when I sent the link to Fred and then like you popped on. I was like, oh, okay, we'll skip the small talk for now, straight to the podcast, which I love. But speaking of prime time, like this might be a weird thing to say. But I really love the aesthetics of the show. It looks very like polished. It looks very professional. And even though there's no audience, and we all know that's weird for professional wrestling, it still looks like a really good production.
yeah. Well, thanks. The show was ran by broadcast professionals. We shoot the show at Thunder Studios. We're on hiatus right now. But when we got into the facility, the Thunder Studios is made up of several stages. We're on probably the smallest one they have. But the neat thing about the room, when you talk about the aesthetics, is the stage is rectangular instead of square, which does make a difference. We created somewhat of a forced perspective from where we were at. So
Yeah.
where the cameras are located to where the LED is, and the way that we created, we placed these pennants across the black Sykes in the studio, the red, white, and blue. But the way they're laid out and the way that they're angled, it creates this focus point, I guess, on the ring. And so the way that with the optics and the lenses and all that kind of stuff, and especially the jib, when you go back, that's the crane camera for people who don't know what a jib is. When you go back and watch the show, how I utilized that in the matches, you rarely see an aerial view live of a wrestling match. But I felt that we had to go there because there was no people and there was no cutaways or coverage, as we call it. And in live, you really can't. That's not as important in versus a taped show or a recorded show. Recorded show, we go back and fix everything, but you really need those cutaways of faces and boos and yas and signs so that we can create that edit point. But on a live broadcast, that jib saved us so many times, especially during downtime and if there was a thought process happening in the ring or something and we needed to go a little higher to kind of take the attention off of the competitors, and maybe we would run an advertisement, do a picture-in-picture, something like that to kind of break it up a little bit. But thanks for noticing. Yeah, the LED, the lighting, everything is very minimal too. If you ever visited the set or have the opportunity when we come back, it is not Raw or SmackDown or AEW or even Ring of Honor for that matter. I think we probably are using the most minimal amount of anything in a wrestling broadcast.
Well, Dave,
yeah.
Dave, sorry to cut you off. Let me tell you, when I'm there, for me, perception is everything. So I'm going to make sure that it's larger than life production with me arriving to the building, because like a lot of what I've learned from WWE and the social media being a second job for us is that, perception is everything. So arriving to the studio, making sure I get good pictures and tagging the brand, like that's so important to me.
Absolutely. And thank you for doing that. I think one of the biggest things that gave us this broadcast feel, this big television network sound, it was the sound. The person who does our audio, Alex, he's mixing, I want to say 18 sources of audio during that show. We have 18 different microphones throughout the studio, plus the commentators and stuff. But the theme song, that's an original theme song that was written for that show. And it has a real big broadcast vibe to it. Just like if you're watching the NFL on Fox, that's what I was kind of going for, because I knew we would be lacking in other areas. So every time you heard that,
I like that.
It was like an audible cue for people to go like, oh, something's happening. And on that same subject, if I can geek out a little bit, we commissioned a theme song just for the world title. So as we're getting ready to present the world championship, hopefully soon, much like I hope to much like the American Idol theme, like when they win, they get to sing a moment like this. Instead of the winner's music being played throughout the pageantry at the end, it's going to be mixed in this new song that is the theme, much like the Olympics or something else, that when you see the world title presented, it has its own audible cue.
I don't think that's ever been done before. That's really cool.
It hasn't been.
That's really cool. I like that. David, what was your first impression of Fred when you met him?
Oh, I thought Fred was a great guy. And what do I remember about Fred? I remember his mom.
No, but when was it? Was it 2005?
It was in Jersey.
6, 7?
I don't remember what year that was and where we were at. I know it was in Jersey. What year did I get out there to start actually doing stuff? Because I started a company out there with another promoter called Liberty Stage Wrestling. That's what got me out to New Jersey, in New York. I don't remember the year because I had done stuff there prior to that too. But I don't know. I'm trying to remember who introduced me to you or where I ended up. Were you ever on any of the cyber Billy Firehawk shows?
Yeah, I did maybe one or two shows,
Was
like
Jeff
maybe
Jarrett on
Battle
any of those?
Royals. Yeah, man, I don't really
Long
remember.
time
I don't
ago, man.
remember.
I know me
Yeah,
either. But I think that's where I first met you.
and then
Was
what? We
at one of
stayed in
those.
contact, and then we stayed in contact because social media wasn't as powerful as it is today.
No,
So,
not at all. I remember I stayed in contact. I probably called you a time or two, and then I went back out there a few times to do
uh-huh.
other things. And you were just always kind of in the air. Your name
Hmm.
was always around.
Wow.
Were you doing stuff for Chaotic?
Yeah, chaotic. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
and I remember that too. So, um,
Ah.
so yeah, so I
So,
just remember and then following you too. Like when I meet someone, I try to follow what they're doing, and so through websites and
yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
was happening because video wasn't big that on
Yeah.
the internet
Nope.
then either.
Nope.
So it's mostly pictures, local photographers, CJ Mama,
Mm,
Christine. Um, those area photographers really kept
yeah.
me abreast of what was happening on the East Coast.
Wow. And then you brought me over for your NWA tournament. That was,
That's
do
right.
you remember the year? 2007, six?
It had to be one of those years. It's been a while for sure. Try to think of Pierce's when I was in Puerto Rico when we did the finals, but I can't remember now. It was something like that. But yeah, so I
Yeah.
had to put together this world title tournament. That was when you go back and look at it, everybody's in it.
Yeah.
So, I know you own the United Wrestling Network and you also own Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, but I learned that in the 90s, you actually owned the NWA, right?
I was one of several owners of the NWA. Yes.
Okay, so how did you feel when the first time Cody went to the Independent? Not the first time, maybe like a few years in, he really gave the NWA World Championship that spotlight with his 10 pounds of gold documentary when he wrestled Nick Aldis, and I think that brought more
Mm-hmm.
eyes to the NWA Championship. How did you feel about that?
Sure. Oh, it was great. I was a part of that. It was that was good at that point, which is current. Um, Billy Corrigan of the Smashing Pumpkins owns the NWA, so I helped him and David Lagana uh, with the deal and them to eventually own it. But the stuff we did with Cody was great, and this was pre AEW.
That's right.
Um, and that he lost the title back to all this at the NWA 70th anniversary in Nashville, which allowed more storytelling and him to go off to do what they're doing now. But the NWA, I have this saying about it. Some people like it, some people don't. In the last 5 years, I've come up with it. It's I originally joined the NWA in the 90s, and even then the wrestling public wants to say that it was dead, like this thing doesn't exist. Well, the truth is the NWA has not stopped running since 1948. In some capacity, some place, it's ran. So it may not have been on big television, but it ran. They were doing shows, and Antonio Inoki was a member and an owner. We had people in New Zealand, we had people in Europe, we had people in Canada, we had people all over the place promoting the NWA. And then when I got really into it in the 90s, my business partners were Harley Race and Gordon Soley. So you don't get more NWA than that. Um, so there's always been a spotlight per se on what we do, and there's still that warmth that the fans have for the brand. And now today, with what we did with Cody and with Tim Storm, has to take a lot of credit too, because this whole thing was rebuilt on his back. We had a Rocky Balboa type of a story of
Yes.
a 50 plus year old man who's like a fourth grade school teacher, and he's from Arkansas, and like no one's heard of him. And so we turned this whole thing around, and it shot off all the way to NWA Power. So it's great when people catch things, because even prior to all this, like during Fred's time participating in what we were doing, Brian Danielson was slated to be the world champion. That what was supposed to happen, but he broke his eye.
Oh,
And so if you go back and look at all that stuff from back then, he was the guest referee in the final match between Brent Albright and Adam Pearce. Adam replaced Brian, and we had the match in Puerto Rico. And then, of course, with the eye patch, he couldn't see whose shoulder was down, and things
yeah.
happen. Uh, but yeah, no, the NWA has a real big piece of me is in that we've spent so much money keeping it chugging, and I'm just happy that it's here and with someone who has the means to do something great with it.
That's true. That's very true, man.
You talked about Adam Pearce. How happy do you see what he's doing with WWE now? Like, I think it's beautifully told.
It is. If anyone knows Adam, and I've known Adam for over 20 years, if anyone knows Adam, and if you were in his presence at any time, he doesn't, not even as NWA World Champion, just Adam Pearce, whether it's him and Cabana, Ace Steel, what they called the Gold Bond Mafia back then, all those Chicago guys, Danny Dominion, Punk, they traveled when I was in the Midwest. That's how I met these guys. When I was in Missouri doing wrestling, they were coming out of Chicago and all this. And from way back then, I just knew this guy had something to it. Not just him, to it. Like, he got it. More than anybody else, he got it. And then when we both moved to California, well, I moved back to California in '99, and he kind of came out here at the same time. And we both ended up at UPW with Rick Bassman, which was a WWF territory, a development area. And that's where I started working with Cena and getting him up and going and all that. But Adam was there too in a tag team. And it was just great to come in like the old territory system where we both come in, and I came in from a production and booking side, and he was just a talent. But when we would talk about stuff, he just was totally on top of things. And so when he told me he retired on my show, the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood program, I guess 6 years ago, maybe, left the boots in the ring, the whole thing. And I'm like, yeah, that was fun television, but I know the truth. But I knew he was going to the development to the PC for the WWE to be a trainer. And in my head, I was like, he's not going to be at that PC long, because someone there is going to really recognize his talents. And Adam's talent are everything. He's a quintessential pro wrestler. You give him the baton, he'll run with it. He did it with me for many years. He's done it for other people. And when when I started seeing and hearing his name as head official, when I heard that, I think I read it first. I didn't even see him on TV. And I read it. He was the WWE head official. I was like, oh, here it comes. And the first time he's on TV, he's opposite Vince in a promo on Fox. On Fox. And I was like, boy, look at that. And I said then, I give this guy a year before he's in a match. Sure enough, they were pushing a match. I was like, look, this is it. No, I'm beyond proud of Adam. One of my best friends in the world, and he deserves everything, because that guy, he really did it the old way of territories. Because when you think about it, he booked my show. He left my show to book Ring of Honor. He left Ring of Honor. He came back to my show. Then he went right to WWE. And now he's probably getting 4 different paychecks for 4 different jobs.
He has such an it factor towards him, because I feel like he's one of those people that can tell stories just with their facial expressions. And when I first saw him as head official WWE, I had not in a bad way, but I had a hard time believing him in that role because of his size. I just feel like he's so big, and like appearance wise, he has this dominant presence towards him. But as he gets on the mic, he sold you. He sold you on his character, and I just love his interaction with Roman Reigns. And I think the last segment that he had was just pure gold. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was during the contract signing for the Royal Rumble, and when Reigns signed it, like that moment when Adam said, Was that your dog?
Relax.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm a fur dad too. I have a dog. I get
Relax.
it. But that moment when he said, "I've been waiting for you to do this all night," and I'm like, wow, like just his facial expression, like that got me. So yeah, I agree with you. He's super talented, man.
Another thing about Adam that's great is his voice. So, I mean, one, he's a walking thesaurus. He can just come up with words and so quick. When he and I used to do interviews together, when I was the interviewer for him being the world champion, you know, we had a great chemistry. One, we were friends, so we knew we could say whatever we wanted to each other. But we also knew the shtick. We knew the Abbott and Costello. We knew what we can both get away with. He called me Four Eyes on TV. He would lick my glasses. He would lick my face. He would do ridiculous things to me. I remember when we did one where he was eating popcorn and he was sitting and he was the world champion, and it was just coming out, much like the Vince McMahon storyline with the but with the internet, that I was the owner of the company. We never said it ever, and it worked. Like, because people didn't know, and the NWA was so big, we would always say Bob Trovich is the executive director, or Bill Behrings was the president, or something like that. And so I had to get on my hands and knees, and every time I would open my mouth to say, "Here we are with world," he'd throw a piece of popcorn in my mouth, or like, we always made great TV that way. But when I heard his voice for the first time when he came into the ring to accept the title match, just me knowing Adam and his voice, listen to him when he's head official Adam Pearce, if you go back and watch it, and the first time he's in the ring as a competitor, and then all of a sudden he has what I called his worker voice, and he became, "Well, Roman," like it got way deep right there on TV, and I knew that. I was like, "Oh, they're gonna have a match.
Oh,
Here it is,
man,
and the scrap iron is on TV."
that's great stuff. And, speaking of It Factor, I also learned that you directed John Cena's first promo.
That's
Now,
true.
off the bat, did you know that, like, this kid has something here?
Yes. I didn't know, like, you don't know if people are going to become mega superstars. Same thing with CM Punk, or,
Yeah.
I've known Bryan Danielson for almost 20 years too, I guess. I never thought that he would become what he became in the WWE just with a three-letter word. Like to me, I didn't know Bryan had that in him, to be honest with you. He was so reserved, and we were at New Japan together, and he was all about being the American Dragon and all that. So when I saw him doing the yes thing, I was like, "What on earth? What, really?" Because I know if I would have asked him to do that, he would have laughed at me. He was like, "No way! I'm not going to do that. That's so stupid." But going back to Cena, he came in right out of, he was living in his car, I think. He had like a Volkswagen or something, and he would go from Venice Beach, because I'm pretty sure he worked at Gold's Gym in Venice, and he would drive from Venice all the way to Huntington Beach every day to go to wrestling practice, because that's where we were at with UPW, and that's where the school was. But then the promos were done a couple more miles south, in Santa Ana at the Galaxy Theater. So we had a little TV set up there to shoot promos and stuff. So yeah, I directed his first promos, and he could talk just like he does now, very studious. But the bad part is that, you know what I'm talking about. Very he could, like, you when he talks, it's funny. I said this joke years ago, but when John would speak, it's like you can see the letters coming out of his mouth, like the caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland.
That's the best way to
it's
explain it.
it's just so weird that he would talk and the letters would come out of his mouth. It was just weird. And I'm sure I'm the only one that saw it that way. But he had a bad character, a bad gimmick, and I felt so bad for him because they made him a robot.
Yeah, the prototype.
And the prototype, and he had this crew cut, and it's like, here you have this guy, and he's like, he looks like this, but why is he? And then they gave him that thing, and I felt so bad for him. I really did. And he wasn't making any money, but I knew once we started shooting the interviews that he wasn't going to be with us long, and sure enough, he wasn't. I think he was with us for a year and a half, and then he got his contract. and then he immediately was shot down to Jim Cornette. So we didn't have him that long. But the time we did have, we put him in great situations with Samoa Joe, Smelly, who is now Mark Bell, the bodybuilding powerlifting maven. It takes a guy like Mark Bell to get a giant piece of elastic and say, "Put your arms in this; it'll help you lift things." Like it's just amazing. I think he calls himself now the Meathead Millionaire. Um, but we had a real eclectic group at UPW back then, and John was a student. I'll give him that. He was always open to suggestion. He was always there listening. And with me specifically, like back then, we were the Galaxy Theater was a cabaret like theater. So there was a stage, a dance floor, and then the seats that kind of went up Vegas style. And the ring was on the dance floor. But off to either side, there were bars. So that's where the waitresses would come to get the drinks. Well, on one side, that's what I had to use to build our television. So I had to put a switcher there and all the cables and everything. And we dropped this curtain in front of me so that the people couldn't see me going crazy and yelling, being me. But John would come around and sit behind me. And he's like, "I don't know how you can do this. This is amazing. What are you doing?"
That
So
sounds like him.
He would be like, "Man, you're an octopus, blah blah blah," and then finally he gave me the nickname Diamond Dave. So, but yeah, he was a great guy.
I like it. So I feel like you have to own the name, the Pope of Pro Wrestling, because you've done so much, man. You've done it all, and one of your many accomplishments, I learned that you've actually were the vice president of New Japan for about 5 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
and
5 years.
You work with guys like Carl Anderson, Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, TJ Perkins. If someone were to go back in time and tell you at that time when you were working with them how mainstream those guys were going to be, would you have been surprised?
No, I don't think I'd be surprised. I just don't know. Like, because my head is still, then was like you were, you were the Great Muta, or you were Hulk Hogan still. It was still Goldberg and Steve Austin, like these super larger than life type personalities.
Yeah.
So like Finn Balor he can barely speak English. Honestly, it's like his accent was so thick straight off the boat. Like he was, he'd come talk to you and you're just talking to him. And it's like, oh, you have to think, okay, I know you're speaking English, but slow down. TJ was 18, 17 years old. And Samoa was already the Ring of Honor champion at that time, but Joe was already going places. And Carl Anderson, I found him in Nashville, like just and got him over to the dojo. In fact, his mother begged me in an elevator to take him. That's the truth.
Wow.
Yeah, please take him. Okay. But and I changed his name. His name was Chad Too Bad Allegra. And I said, I hope you're not a headache. Like, you sound like a pain pill. And then I changed it to Carl Anderson. The machine gun part wasn't me, but the Carl Anderson part was. But yeah, I mean, I knew they would be someone in wrestling. I just had no idea that they were going to be who they are today. Like even with the Trevor Murdoch. Trevor Murdoch, originally, I gave him some of his first matches in Missouri, or even someone who probably isn't talked about enough, John Cone. I gave John Cone his first matches as a referee in Missouri, and now he's a big shot there. That I know the public doesn't know much about John's job, but he's a big shot at WWE.
Yes, he is.
So I know I have a good eye for talent. It's just you have to have the right machine behind you to make it work.
Yes.
So AEW, I believe there's so many diamonds they have, but they're so concentrated on an immediate reaction because they have to. They can't necessarily plot out, in my opinion, 4 or 5 years from now, because maybe they might not be here in 4 or 5 years. The WWE, on the other hand, has that
Track record.
guarantee
Yeah.
that they're going to be here for 30, 40, 50 more years if they want to. So
Mhm.
they can plan and use people that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally, I knew they were going to be something in wrestling. I knew wrestling was going to be their day job.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that they would be wrestling.
Okay. Okay. I get that.
Dave, do you have like a proudest moment? Because for me personally, it was helping two referees out. One, I believe, is on SmackDown, Danilo and Fibio, and then the Raw referee is Sean Bennett.
Bennett, yeah.
Who's doing ring crew and he's refereeing. So that's double salary. He's hustling. So
Yeah.
those are my proudest moments. Like really, like talking to Scott Armstrong, saying, "Please, I put my name on the line. Look at these guys. These guys."
Yeah.
Would be a great asset to the family, the WWE family. So I put my name on the line for those guys. What's been like your proudest moment off the top of your head in your 30 plus years in the business?
Man, there's so much.
Helping
Uh,
someone and then personally,
I
so actually helping someone and then personally.
There's been so many cases because a lot of things, and you probably know this about me, a lot of guys that I've known and helped nurture throughout the years, I've helped them on a personal level too, just to keep on track and not to fall off or go to drugs or alcohol or like pills, whatever. Try to keep them focused on what their prize is. So, and there's too many names to name there. Um, Peter Avalon has been a pet project of mine since he started. So he was probably 17, 18 years old when he first came around me. And when we started the Hollywood program 10 years ago, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood's been on the air for 10 years now. And Peter was a kid, but I knew he, much like an Adam, he had it in him. uh, he understood what the show was. He understood his role, no matter where he was at on the card. I knew he got it way back then, even though he wasn't experienced. So I said from the beginning, this kid's going to be a project of mine. Let me see what I can do with him. And uh, our very first TV for Hollywood, I put him in the very first match that aired, and he was against Cabana because I knew that Cabana would take care of him and
Mm-hmm.
put him in the right situation. But I also knew that Peter had the smarts to go along with it and play with it. And how I knew this was earlier in the day when we did the pre-tapes. Um, I had Peter, so this was like a walk where Peter's going to the ring for the first time. No one's seen him before, so I did the box in the corner and let him do his promo in the box, and the box go away. So I had him while we were doing it. I was like, okay, go, because I had never seen him do it. So he did a really bad indie type promo that was just whatever, nobody cares. And so I had him do it again, and it still was bad. So the third time, I gave him a line. At the time, Peter was like 5'9" and 132, 33 pounds of hair.
Mm.
and I said to him, "You're pretty Peter Avalon, the biggest the biggest man in professional wrestling." And he looked at me and he said, "But I'm not." And I said, "You are. If I say you're a purple dragon who spits green bubble gum, that's who you are." And and so he did it, and he bought it, and he owns it. And here we are, you know, uh, 11 years later, I guess, and he's doing it on TNT. He just did it the other night with Cody. He was pretty Peter Avalon, the biggest man in pro wrestling. But it took him so long to fall into the role and understand the character. And, we had him grow a mustache and all that kind of stuff. So to see a project, kind of like if we go back to Disney in a bit, it's like the Steamboat Willie or Galloping Gaucho versus all the way 90 plus years of what you get the evolution of Mickey Mouse today. I can look at Peter from the very, very beginning all the way now to what he looks like on television as of a few nights ago. So that's a real proud piece. And personally,
Personally, yes.
um, I've been able to sustain in pro wrestling, and show business in general, not just wrestling, just show business, um, and still have a better than decent name. It's very difficult, you know, and I do my best. Sometimes you don't meet other people's expectations, but I try to. Um, but I think that's one of my biggest personal accomplishments is that I don't think too many people cringe when they hear my name. They usually have a laugh or a story, but I don't think too many people go like, "Ah, fuck that guy." You know, I'm sure I know there's a few that do, but 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 I'm more than positive that the majority doesn't. So I put it this way: people take my phone call.
Yes, yes.
Like you said earlier, you've done so much more stuff not just in wrestling but outside of wrestling as well. What do you find most satisfying, creating content for pro wrestling, or do you find a better satisfaction creating content for boxing or baseball?
I I I think just working,
Oh, it's working overall. Okay.
just being able to work, I think is the satisfying part. As an example, you can't see my desk right now, but it is full of papers, just full of stuff all over the place with ideas, and um, uh, and I'm not exaggerating. It's stacked, folders, notebooks, little napkins, whatever, full of ideas, and the satisfying part of being, I guess today it's called a creator. When I was doing this before, it was called being a producer. Um, uh, that you're able to sketch something or write something down, and then 4 or 5 months later, it's a reality. So if the fulfillment of putting that all together is great. Now the execution might not be there, and at the end of of what you've done, it might be total garbage. But the fact that you said you were going to do something, you found the financing to do it, you actually did it, someone actually aired it, and then you were done with it. So baseball, basketball, wrestling, boxing, MMA, news, award shows, concerts, symphonies, all that stuff. It's all gratifying because you're being a television director is very different than being a movie director or like a social media influencer where you can go back and like, oh, let's do that again. No, my job, I'm not sure if people know what I really do as a television director. I'm a multi-camera director. So what we do, like movies, you have one camera, you set the scene, you can shoot it, there's a script. It's like, okay, cut, let's do that again, let's move the camera this way, let's do that. When you're doing live television, especially sports, I'm watching anywhere between 6 and 11 monitors at one time. And my job is to create it seamless so that those 11 cameras, again, whether it's baseball or football or whatever, so it looks like it's your eye, it's your point of view, it's your eyes watching it. And um, so the sequences have to be there and you can't miss the sequence. So if it's football, from the quarterback taking it back, doing whatever he's going to do, you have to be able to hit those beats just like music. And interestingly enough, I'm like a conductor of an orchestra because I'm talking to replay people live. I'm talking to producers. I'm talking to a Chiron operator. I'm talking to all the cameras. I'm talking to the audio people. I'm talking to the announcers. I'm talking to, at times, if we're on the phone with a network or a channel or whatever, I'm on the phone with the end. So I'm speaking to probably 25, 30 people at one time and saying at least 10 different things. So it's to me it's fun as hell. But most people when they look at it like, oh my god, how do you do that? And to be truthful with you, I don't know how I do it. It's just I do it. That's what I do. So uh, being able to create that seamless look is quite possibly the most gratifying thing, especially if it's your idea. You pitched it, someone bought it, someone paid for it. and you got it out there to the public, and hopefully they liked it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Arnold, if I was the Vince McMahon of wrestling, I would have Dave Marquez on my team. Totally. Totally. He's a plethora of knowledge. When it comes to traveling, like what's been that you feel like sharing? What's been the craziest traveling story? Do you love traveling with the wrestlers? Do you love traveling with the production? Me personally, for my WWE experience, I love traveling with production people. I always become more friendly with them and just vibe with them better than the actual talent. If it wasn't Titus, Sheamus, or Mark Henry, I either drove by myself or I drove with like Saxton, the announcer, or someone like that. But yeah, I love the production. Who do you enjoy traveling with? Do you have a funny story?
Oh, I have tons of funny stories. I mean, it's just which one. I mean, I could talk about Savaldi's all day.
Yes, yes.
That kind of stuff. I mean, Ricky O stories, these stories, those. There's tons of stories. But I don't know. I guess what I would do in the beginning to try to teach people lessons, like when we get on the airplane.
Oh, tell me.
I would never tell people, like flight status. Like younger wrestlers don't know anything about that, right?
Yeah.
And so, of course, I'd get an upgrade, not tell them. And and then everyone's sitting there, all their bags, their hats, their everything, they're overloaded wherever we're going. If we were doing a tour, multi-day tour, and then when it was like Delta makes the ding, so the Diamond Flyers come in. And I get up and start. They're like, "Where are you going?" Like, oh, I'm gonna go take my seat. What? How come you're gonna go on first? Like, because that's what happens. So, and then by the time if you're in first class, they're already giving you shrimp cocktail and all this stuff, and then they come on and they're looking at you like, "What the hell? What do you? I have a cracker." So then they learn from that, hopefully, down the line to start getting their flight miles. But I have been at gunpoint twice, both with Vampiro.
Oh my goodness.
One in Mexico and once in Puerto Rico. Kevin Kleinrock was at the one in Mexico. We did a show, from what I'm guessing are gangsters. They brought us into Mexico, and myself, Ruben Zamora, and Vamp were the producers of this. And it was already messed up when we got there. I could already tell something was going on. Then we get into this room, kind of a production room, but it was so tiny. In like the back of a garage, like a car garage, and they open this door and all these lights come on, kind of like production lights with colors and stuff, and then they turn on this thing and it was like a model of the arena we were going to. Someone built a model and they had all the camera platforms and they wanted me to change where the cameras are and everything. Was that where you put that? Or whatever. And so I started talking and everyone was satisfied, and at the end they all kind of put their hands on their hips and everyone had a gun, like everyone. And I was like, well, thank God they were happy with that. But that's not the point I'm talking about. The next piece is we're all, Juventud was there, Aaron Aguilera was there, who else was there? A bunch of people were in this van driving to the show, and the Federals pull us over. They take us all out and we're laying with our face in the dirt on the sidewalk. And they all had guns on us, and they tore apart completely the van we were in, completely tore it apart at gunpoint. And I don't know what they were looking for, probably nothing. And they just messed with us. And so all of us wrestlers are on the side of the road, and the seats were taken out, the bags were thrown, and so there's that. Then the second time was in Puerto Rico. We were there for Savio, and then we were just on the street at the wrong time.
Oh, goodness.
Down there by the casino. But then there's just so many stories, so many fun stories, so many ridiculous stories, so many everything. It's just, I've had a lot of fun. Traveling anymore, not even like post 9/11, I've always kind of been this way. I'm a great tourist. I hate traveling. So getting there and getting back, horrible. But when I'm there, we have a great time. I've been to China 3 times, and each time it's been amazing. The first trip was weird. Like no one knew what pro wrestling was, and I'm there with the government, and it's like really like you see on television or in the movies where it's these levels of government officials all around and Russian sickle or the communist sickle all over the place. And here I am in the center, kind of like Walt, trying to make a presentation of, well, this is what we're going to do. And this is what wrestling is. And they're looking at me like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Like, huh? It's a show? That's not real. What? Huh? And so I was there for 4 or 5 days, and it took 2 more trips to sell it to them, but they finally signed off on it. We did a show over there, but each time it was ridiculous. The food was ridiculous, like the most gross things they put in front of you, I think on purpose. Chickens with eyeballs, like actual claw feet with nails, and like I remember Nick Aldis when Cabana wrestled Aldis at the show we did over there. And we were taken to a private sponsor dinner, and so they had the Lazy Susan of all the grossest everything. And of course, Cabana is a cheeseburger guy, like he's Midwest. Aldis is British, so he's had a little more cuisine and exotic cuisine. Mm. So I forgot to tell Cabana about like they don't use ice or any of that stuff. So he goes, go around the table. You like this? You like this? You like this? And it gets to me. I said, oh no, a good Cabana order. He said, just the water. And I forgot to tell him that it was going to be boiling hot water because that's what they serve you, like tea, but it's just boiling water. And then I ordered like like a Coke with some ice, and then when it showed up, everyone's getting their drinking, and Cabana's sitting there staring at this bubbling cauldron water, and he looks over at our host. He goes, "Am I supposed to wash my clothes in this? Like, what is this? Like, do you drink this? Like, this hurts. This will hurt me." Stuff like that. So there's always fun little anecdotes when you're traveling, and I just try to have fun. I try to smile, but I'm the boss, and that's hard sometimes to smile because when everything rolls, it rolls and it hits me. So if the boys are unhappy, or the venue's unhappy, or the government's unhappy, or the local gangsters are unhappy, I'm the guy they usually send in. So luckily, I have a jolly demeanor. And I can usually giggle my way out of it most of the time. There's been a few times I've had to pay up for us to leave. There's a fun, quick story about Canada. So I did a tour in Canada, and I had Kevin Nash and Mabel and Trevor Murdoch and Lance Cade and a bunch of other people. And there's like it's total the snowstorm. You can't get anywhere in Canada type thing. The side of the mountain had an avalanche, and so we had to go through 4 different provinces to get to the building, all that stuff. So we were going from one building to another, and that's exactly what happened. That Nash and it was Nash, Mabel, and who else was in that car? Basically, the main event was stuck somewhere, and Adam Pearce went out as the heel and sang the Canadian national anthem for almost an hour. So to hold the show up. And then the people were back and forth. People were singing at us. Adam was singing at them. It was really good, by the way. But, we had this tour, and I was getting my piece. And usually in the States, my relationship with the arenas, where we get our deposit up front, which we did from the Canadians too. But they would send me a check or wire my piece of the other half back, and I would usually have it by the time I get home. Well, the Canadians gave me cash. For some reason, they didn't want to wire the money. And we did 3 shows. In my pocket, I probably legitimately had $175,000. Wow. And you can't get on an airplane, especially international, with more than five grand or something. So Waltman was there too. No, I think about it. Waltman was there. So I went, I said, okay. Yeah. I was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're all on the same flight. You get 3,000, you get 3,000, you get 3,000, you get 3,000, you get 5,000, and then we get to the border in Vancouver. And if you've ever gotten there, there's like this weird split. So you continue to go domestic or international to terminals, and then there's like a consulate and it's another government thing over here. Anyways, I was with a photographer, and the photographer got held up by the customs. And sure enough, Mabel and everybody just kept going to their flight. And I was like, yo, come back here, because they were taking off with the money.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I found them all, got all my cash back because we already threw customs and everything. And so by the time I was on the plane, it didn't matter. But yeah, silly stuff like that always happens to me.
Wow, I love those stories, man. It's really funny.
Dave, it's been a dynamite episode, and I always say time is money. I said it earlier, but before we wrap it up, I just wanted to hit you with 21 totally random questions. Are you just down to play?
Sure. Let's see what comes out of this mouth.
What's your favorite thing in your closet right now?
A jacket.
When things break, do you prefer to fix it or what? What did you have something for the first one?
No, I have a jacket that I like that I've been wearing. A jacket.
Oh,
That's
just
my
a
favorite thing
jacket.
yeah, a jacket I have. I just bought it. It feels real good. It's like not so fat, not too skinny. Like you kind of feel okay in the middle. I'm almost 50, so if you're kind of pudgy, it's kind of like cool that you don't look super fat in it or it's not tight. So it feels pretty good.
You look great, Dave. Please, you look great. When things break, do you prefer to fix it or replace it?
It depends. I'm pretty good with my hands, so I can fix things. But if it's not worth fixing, get a new one.
What job would you be absolutely horrible at?
I don't know, like a bus driver or something.
What's your favorite movie ever?
There's two of them, I think. I mean, one's a movie called Avalon that Barry Levinson directed. Great picture. And the other might be The Color Purple. Spielberg's The Color Purple.
Mm. Number 5, you've already pretty much answered it. What's the most disturbing thing you've ever witnessed?
Oh, I've witnessed some stupid thing. The most absurd thing I've ever witnessed. Me getting a boot on my car in Atlanta last year, because if you've ever been to Atlanta, there's some side of the street you can park on, the other side you have to pay. So me at like 3:00 in the morning yelling at the police and a damn tow truck operator because they put a damn boot on my car because I didn't see the sign because it was all the way up the street when the sign's up in the sky. So me being ridiculous in the streets of Atlanta at 3:00 in the morning outside of a strip club.
Oh my goodness. If you had the world's attention for 30 seconds, what would you say?
We can do better.
Yeah.
Love that. I love that.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
Unnecessarily horn honking. People who honk their horns.
Oh goodness. Oh,
it
yes,
bothers me to
yes.
no end. It's like, well, who are you honking at? We're all here. We're not gonna. None of us are moving.
My mom's a maniac. She's a maniac when she does that. I can't stand it. What makes you anxious?
And anticipating.
Anticipating. Yep. Same here. What's the stupidest thing you've ever done because someone dared you to?
This has to go back to when I was a kid, because I don't get dares anymore. I remember I put my head dare. I put my head in some bars like a fence.
Oh.
And
goodness.
the fire department had to cut it out.
I feel like.
Oh, and I was wearing handcuffs for some reason.
Oh my God.
I had to get both of them cut off. I was probably like 7 years old.
What's your favorite swear word?
Fuck. I'm really good at saying it.
Yeah, I think I probably heard you say that, so I just keep laughing. Um,
I'm sure you've heard me say it.
yeah, yeah. What is one food that you would never give up?
Never give up. And the thing is, I'm not like a big foodie. I only eat like 5 different things. Um, I don't know. My favorite meal is linguine and clams.
Wow.
So uh, I wouldn't like to give that up
Mm.
unless it's the
If you
red sauce. They can keep the red sauce. I don't like the red sauce.
if you could have three people over for dinner, dead or alive, who would they be?
Walt Disney,
Mm.
um, Jim Henson, and Franklin Roosevelt.
Mm. Uh, what's the worst backhanded compliment that you've ever been given?
Jesus, there's a fucking encyclopedia of those. Um,
No.
yeah. Uh, have you guys met David Marquez? He has a better aptitude than most in doing this.
Mm.
That's a
Yeah.
Oh, okay. If you could,
That's for
Dave,
reals.
Dave, this is supposed to be rapid fire.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Uh,
ahead.
no, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. If you could be a member of any TV sitcom, what would it be?
Like, welcome back, Cotter.
Who was your first celebrity crush?
Oh man, what's her name? She was just on the Karate Kid. Came back. Elizabeth Shue.
Do you know who that is, Arnold?
Oh, was she the first love interest of the first Karate Kid?
Yeah, Elizabeth
Okay.
Shue. She
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
in Adventures in Babysitting
That's right. That's right.
and
Yeah, yeah. She's also on The
Cocktail.
Boys.
What's that?
She's also on a new show called The Boys.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elizabeth Shue was my first big screen crush. But let me take that back. If we're really talking for real, Julie Andrews is Mary Poppins.
What's something that you've tried that you'll never try again?
Mushrooms.
Wait,
We could talk about it if you want.
no. Uh, Gotta keep it PG. What was your first job?
Disneyland tour guide.
Mhm.
Uh, is there an app that you hate but you use anyway?
No.
Is there a personality trait you can't stand?
I think I'm quick. I think I'm too quick sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Too quick.
Yeah,
Best gift ever
hot-headed,
received.
hot-headed, quick.
Hmm.
Like
Okay.
kind of kill something right away when someone might suggest something.
I see.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Best gift ever received. Don't
Best
don't
gift.
worry. Don't worry, we're almost done so you can walk. What's your dog's name?
Sport.
Sport? Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sport. How my love. Sport has to go on a walk, huh?
Shortly. Um,
Shortly.
let's see. Let's see.
Best
Best
gift ever
gift.
received.
I've received so many. That's tough. Uh, I'll be cheesy. My first Emmy Award.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah, I should be proud of that, man.
And last but not least, what product would you seriously stockpile if you found out that they weren't going to sell it anymore?
Say it again.
What product would you seriously stockpile if you found out that they weren't selling it anymore?
That's my life every week. Everything I like goes away. Red licorice dots from See's Candy.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
It's
Oh,
it's totally like that too.
oh, that's too funny. Dave, seriously, it's been a really fun episode. You are the first promoter to be on my little podcast. For me, doing a podcast, it's like therapy for me. I do it because I do it with my real life neighbor, Arnold, and it's like therapy for me to be able to talk to people that have influenced my career in the wrestling business. So I just wanted to thank you on being on my little podcast with my boy Arnold.
Well, thank you for having me, and thanks for being there for me every time I needed you.
Always, always, always. And I still moving forward when things clear up. If you need me, you call me, baby. You can't
Of
have
course,
remember, Dave. You can't have primetime live without the primetime player. Don't get me started now, okay?
that's right. But tomorrow you might get a contract or something and end up in Japan, and I won't see you again. So
Hey, I'm trying so hard, Dave. I'm
I
trying
know
so
I'm
hard.
watching. I'm
You
watching.
know that
I'm not
that's
there
been
at
a
this,
bucket.
and I'm not there at the New Japan Strong tapings as much anymore. But my company produces that. If the public doesn't know,
Yes,
and
yes.
so I watch everything. I see all the raw stuff. I see all the angles. I see everything. You are trying. That's definitely true.
Yeah, so I just gotta, just stay healthy, stay in shape, and just keep, representing. So that's my goal to go out there, for the first time ever. So I just gotta keep speaking it into existence.
It's gonna happen.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. It was nice
Thank
meeting
you,
you,
buddy.
man. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and have fun walking your dog.
It's never fun, but thank you.
All right, man.
See you, sport. See ya. See ya,
Bye,
sport.
sport. Have a good night. Another great episode, man. I love him. He's such a jolly, fun guy, and I can listen to his stories all day, man.
Oh, episode 66 is in the can, and first promoter and first guy to, like I said, tell me to pack my bags, pack my gear, and come out to the West Coast to wrestle. So, um, Dave, I owe it to him, and he allowed me to be creative in 2020. When things were very down and out, no crowds, he allowed me to be creative. Uh, on Primetime Live and create content for my IG and continue to do what I love. And I needed to have him on.
Yeah,
Anyone that's near and dear to me, I always have them on the podcast. So
yeah,
it's good to have the OG on, Dave Marquez.
absolutely, man. Have you been watching a little bit of pro wrestling this week?
I just see what pops up on the internet. Or on social media. I don't like watch the shows in its entirety. Uh, I love to see that WrestleMania that they've got their dates picked for the next 3 years, and Stephanie McMahon's reason behind that was because families want to be able to plan out ahead, So uh, to have the three WrestleMania dates be advertised now, people can plan it out. So that's a really cool thing.
Really cool thing, but I'm really surprised that this year is going to be in Tampa, where it was originally supposed to be last year. They're going to that same stadium, and I find it really well. It makes sense, but it was like the first time I saw the logo, I'm like, wait a minute, that's the same logo as last year. But of course, it makes sense because they didn't get to use the props, like the big pirate ship, and now they can use that for the show. But what's confusing me is, what are they gonna do with the crowds? How can it be in a big outdoor arena when?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've already said that they're doing it 2 nights. They'll have 25 in the the stadium, the dome. I'm just
Oh,
flubbing up. I'm just flubbing up. But they'll have 25,000 fans. First night, 25,000 fans. The second night.
wow. Okay, so I didn't know that. So it's gonna be kind of like half filled a little bit, huh? Spread out.
Yeah, it's like 10%. Like um, AEW, they run shows 10%. So 1,000 fans. So spread out. Kind
Wow.
of it sounds kind of echoey. So 1,000 fans are allowed to come into an AEW show.
Wow, that has to be so exciting for the wrestlers, finally performing in front of fans. I bet they're really looking forward to it. I had no idea. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, I think each show is going to be 3 hours long. Saturday and Sunday for the WrestleMania is 3 hours long because they want to have probably like a curfew. They want to be done
Sure.
by a certain time, because COVID is still running rampant.
Oh,
So
of course.
I'm curious to see what the other organizations are going to do under WWE. Are they going to be able to run outdoor shows? Is New Japan going to be able to run in Florida? Are they going to do anything?
Yeah.
We'll have to see.
Yeah.
I just hope that my name is on the billboard.
Did you see that Matt Cardona made his debut at Impact Wrestling?
I saw that. That's are they doing a cross promotion? Was it just like a one-time deal or whatever he was doing with AEW?
He doesn't know himself because he was. I was watching his vlog on his YouTube channel, and it's his journey leaving his house in the morning on Saturday, going there, the hotel, and at the end he's like, "Yeah, so I'm here. Like I really needed that. I needed to work. I needed to do my promo. I don't know." I don't know how long I'm gonna be here. I don't know if it's like a one-time thing. I don't know if this is gonna last for long, but I'm open to the opportunity. So I don't know. The thing is, I get the impression that he's no longer with AEW, right? Because like he's been.
I don't know.
His last match was in September, so it's been quite a while, and like they've been joking, like Brian. Kurt Hawkins has been teasing him, saying that Matt retired, but obviously like that's a joke. But I don't know, but I think it's good to see him in Impact because I think I think AEW has a bigger roster, so I think with Impact having him, he'll definitely have more time for him.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's funny. I don't want to mention any names, but like probably two wrestlers have reached out to me about getting into New Japan. I'm like,
From
what do
where?
you like, huh?
Two wrestlers from where?
Two wrestlers, one is really well known and the other one um is still on the independents. I've done my thing as a group. I've done my thing as a tag team. I've done a little stuff with Bob Backlund, but this is an opportunity for me. If I'm doing it by myself, I'm going to do it by myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the independent guy. If I think that he would be a good fit, then I would, put my name on the line. But in this situation, I got to worry about myself. And that's the one piece of advice I would always tell Titus: worry about yourself. Because there would be times when Titus would help people out. And I'm like saying to myself, man, like just stay in your lane. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all about helping people out, but some people uh, just, that's just how I am. That's just the Scorpio in me. If I think someone deserves it, I'm going to put my name on the line.
Yeah.
If I don't, it's just what it is.
Yeah.
But and Titus would always say, worry about yourself.
Worry about yourself. I like it, man. I like it. What's your favorite match at the Royal Rumble that you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to Goldberg and
Drew.
And Drew.
And you think that Goldberg's gonna win, huh?
Goldberg's gonna win.
Wow. I can't see that happening, man. Because in that case, like if Goldberg does win, it becomes laughable because they always like that's gonna be a pattern of giving Goldberg the championship before Mania just to have him lose it at Mania. That's gonna be really predictable if Goldberg wins, but we shall see. We don't know, man.
Yep, it's gonna happen. Mark it down because because when you have him on, it's ratings, right?
Yeah, that is true. We can't take that away from him. And who do you think is gonna win the Royal Rumble this year for male and female?
Keith Lee.
Ooh, good one.
Keith Lee, and then for the women, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I would just ramble off any name. I don't know. I was gonna just say Natty.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I was just gonna say Natty, have her put another milestone on her career.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps it up for today's episode 66 of Pro and Bro. Man, it was such an honor talking to David Marquez. Such a fun guy to talk to. He has that energy that you can just like vibe with for a really long time, and his stories are all super entertaining.
Yeah. Anytime I see him, I'm always smiles. So I'm glad that he was able to be on our podcast and share his story.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you guys are watching us on YouTube, make sure you guys subscribe and leave a comment down below. And if you guys are listening to us on iTunes, make sure you don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and give us a review so we can know what we can do better. And until then,
Block the hate, salute the great, baby.